Hey, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right. A little sleepy, but yeah, doing well. Long time no talk. How you been?
Yeah, every once in a while we skip a few weeks. It's hard to remember though. It doesn't feel like uh, between these conversations, I never can judge how much time has passed almost. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah, I guess I was talking to you recently about the idea that I would target making a trailer of a game demo as like a way to make it even easier to just create like almost like a vision. I feel sometimes if I put together like all the elements in a compelling way, such that I was like excited for a game that I wanted to make, there'd be like a better chance of making it.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah. I was yeah. So yeah, I think that's a very good idea. It's like I was just watching today like a older video essay by Super Eye Patch Wolf about fake video games.
Oh yeah,
Um, and have you I don't know,
I
heard
had
of
heard. Yeah, I
this.
definitely heard of that
Okay.
video. I forget if I watched some
Okay.
of it. Yeah,
There's a chance, like, yeah, because I like started watching it like a year ago and I forgot about it. Maybe I sent it to you, but yeah, it's just like really compelling. I think in a similar way, um, like a way to do concept art and like sort of imagine how mechanics might work or explore a world without like uh, starting to commit like massive amounts of time into making it like technically work. Um, and yeah, so that sounds like in a similar vein, um, like a good idea.
yeah. I think because it's all in some sense the majority of games that I become aware of, like I never play. I just hear about them or see like at most like a trailer. And
Yeah,
often, like if a trailer is done well, even for a movie or something, it's sort of like that's kind of all I'm looking for is just like the key vibes and the belief that like the full thing exists and a little bit like the satisfaction that if I wanted to go play it, it would be fun, but sometimes it's just like I'm just looking for the I don't know, like the Cole's notes of like the video game, which is like the trailer of just delivering like the main theme and the theme music and stuff, just so I can get exposed to like a kind of a new idea and then take that and be creative with it with almost like not knowing too much about a game. So I just have the creative like essence that I can use for my stuff in the future.
yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, I feel that. I've been I've just started like drawing more, just like kind of free form, um, and I feel like that's like a fun way to sort of just like get my imagination going a little bit. Where like I don't like really think about too hard about it, but and I'm not like skilled at all, but I yeah, it's like interesting. It's like a way to I guess just get creative juices flowing. Not to yeah over
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah. Like, are you drawing with physical materials?
yeah, just like markers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and yeah, I've been sort of like trying to figure out exactly what I want to commit to uh, because I found myself I'm kind of letting myself like dabble in like three different projects currently, and just like whatever I sort of wake up feeling like I want to do, then I just like do that one. Um,
Yeah.
and like that's definitely not like a way to like project plan, but I guess it's like for me the phase of like okay, just like resetting a little bit, like what am I most excited about, um, and like what do I see myself being able to like spend like the rest of the year or like at least the next 3 months, like putting more time into. Um, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at creatively. But do you feel like you message with like one idea for a game? Do you think that's like a yeah something you want to pursue for? Are you pretty set on?
Well, this idea that I got a few days ago for a trailer, I think it's like because I was recently playing Stardew Valley, and I was like I like the cycle of Stardew Valley where I end up usually trying to build like beehives, and then I like sort of building, like batches of 5 beehives at a time, and then the beehives produce like more money in a stable way every 5 days, and that lets
Mm.
me like there's sort of a feedback loop that starts growing, and I find that the music and stuff is like a nice vibe, just the art and stuff. Uh, and
Yeah.
then so that ended up combining with like Balatro because I've been playing Balatro recently too. So then I was kind of excited about this idea of like this sort of like an epic like pixel art desert shot with this tiny character in it, and there'd be like a giant like Goliath statue in the desert that's like casting a shadow, and the shadow provides like relief from the sun and allows you to sort of build like a small like garden or something in the shadow of this like giant like Gaizen statue or something.
Mm.
Uh, but then also I thought it would be cool because it's so like it would be kind of a harsh environment, like this a small footprint. Maybe it's too sunny in the sun, and you can only survive out in the sun for a little bit of time. But I would try to make it like super minimalist so that you're sort of like painstakingly trying to sort of curate like 5 plants at a time, and maybe But then here's where it becomes Balatro is like you could sort of like discard plants and then draw from like whatever seeds blow past, start planting those and try them. But you'd sort of be trying to
Mm.
like create like a poker hand of plants in some way, like maybe if you get like matching plants, they sell for more or something when like a caravan comes by, and so you'd sort of be like making strategic choices about like what to discard and what to keep in order to just like curate a couple dollars like at a time to sort of keep like the little area going. uh
I
and
like
I
it.
thought,
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, just it's hard to that's why I sort of feel like if I made a trailer for it, and if I sort of thought like what would I need to see like in a trailer, like I would just want to hear some good vibe like music, see like a person like shuffling around in a little desert, and then a couple of like shots of just like what are the decisions you kind of have to make, show like a little 6x6 grid of plants or something, and something like I just have to add one more little thing, and it would be kind of fun to just try to design like a very simple like planting simulator, and maybe it would become almost like a minimalist, like just sort of like maybe you never can go like you can't like plant to infinity, you just have like a limited plot and you sort of have to curate these things, and it's more just like a mindfulness experience.
Mm.
Maybe, yeah, it could sort of be designed to like run in the browser. It could become sort of like a meditative game. But yeah,
Yeah.
but still it's hard
Yeah, I like
to
that.
jump into something because I just feel like it sort of all relies on a very specific looking sort of like scale based like pixel art scene, and I sort of feel like I'll make an attempt at like different pixel art or something at some point, but it'll never be as good as I envision it, and so I'll probably lose motivation around there whenever I can't like lock in just like the right few like character animations or something, or the right like pixel art. I think it'll be hard to stay motivated. That's what I
Yeah.
would think. Yeah.
Yeah, I resonate with that. Yeah, not being like a particularly skilled artist. Like, yeah, when it's like can't like I can't create. Yeah, what I'm envisioning that is yeah definitely a demotivating um,
Mhm.
moment. Yeah, but I like the description of the. I think it's like a pretty evocative environment, and like yeah, mashing of ideas, um, and yeah, taking like some like pieces like of existing formulas that have been like really compelling for yourself and other people, like with the Balatro roguelike stuff, um, along with like yeah, this more like environmentally evocative image and um, other mechanics. I think that's like a good sort of like well scoped seeming project.
Yeah, and maybe I would end up taking away like any sort of complicated mechanics and just I like the concept of just designing like a character that can select like a plot of dirt and like plant like a seed and then bring it through different stages of growth. That sort of feels simple and it feels like a fun thing to implement, like state wise almost, like just the ability to like
Mm.
interact with plots of dirt, uh, and then have almost like simple like emergent gameplay come out of the ability to just like walk around and interact with dirt plots.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, roguelike gardening. Uh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
with good vibes and um, yeah, like sense of some sense of danger. That's what I'm sort of hearing. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
cool.
wonder. Yeah, it would be fun to sort of think like maybe there's like, a small pond of water and something so like the character can always survive off that stuff. And then like maybe some plants give you like the ability to survive in heat longer or walk faster. Like if you go out in the
Mm,
sun, yeah, like you go out in the sun, you have like a limited time before your character like faints and then reappears like mysteriously in the shade again. But then like you build the plants to sort of be able to walk further, to scavenge for different things, to build more plants, to just have more ability to do things sort of more faster. But I want, yeah,
yeah.
it's kind of an interesting thing to just kind of think. Like I almost feel like I maybe I would write out like almost like a design document as like a script for a video and get a few key pieces of art, make like a trailer, and then just have a video like explaining, like talking through the the lore of the game or something, or what a player like encounters during the game, as just a way of like if it's compelling, if it's sort of complete enough, then it would be nice to just get to a point where it's just like, okay, I just need to make these technically simple systems with a couple of scenes, and then it'll be what I described. And if that's like simple enough, it that feels like a neat way to go about just sort of making it not, because I hate the challenge of like sitting in front of Godot being like, how do I make this game fun, and literally like typing
Uh,
lines of code. Like I always
yeah.
I'd rather like a game exists that I know will be easy to program and fun, and then I just have to like have the joy of like doing that.
Right, right. Yeah, that's too far of a challenge when you're like, yeah, trying to implement something and also make it good. Like, yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, I like yeah, so like I guess the implication is with the gameplay is that your character is sort of benefiting from these plants like through, I don't know, like consumption and yeah, like building like their own, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
semi-magical stable of uh, nutrition or something to be able to like withstand this harsh environment. I don't know. I'm just spitballing, but
Yeah,
I think that's cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
The original like the meaning behind the statue was like that in today's world, like it kind of feels like there's these gigantic billionaire systems that are sort of like built by, like they built up over the generations to just be these giant like monumental crushing statues that don't really contribute anything except for like by accident, like they sort of by accident they create
Mm.
these like massive corporations that we live like our entire lives in the shadow of, just sort of like getting by with the tiny wages, or like, which is symbolized by like the shade. And we're sort of like, the things we're doing are sort of like meaningful, especially to us, and sort of whatever we need to do to get by. uh, and it's sort of like we exist by accident almost, even though like so much, like some kind of entire civilization went into building this, this sort of beast of capitalism, or this monumental like statue that now is just basically like ruins. uh, and like, like there could be a whole civilization instead of just like one monumental statue or something. But either way, we're just like, it's like, what can we possibly do with in that situation other than just uh like sort of pay very small close attention to these tiny things, these tiny plants, and then like live. And then but it would be fun, like I always feel like I need just one more simple piece to a story to sort of like obviously I need like some kind of ending to that scenario. And then but I think the ending almost would come naturally if I think about it, something like some meaning about uh like, because I guess the it's tempting to just like allow the player to like get more and more money and build more and more plants and like sort of explore everything. But that feels like that sort of just gives rise to like the thing that built the statue, like uh
Mm.
yeah. So then I feel like it should be, somehow it should just indicate more like that it's a reflective thing, like uh in yeah, like in the end you sort of just are there and observe that situation. There's not really, somehow it should give the player like a feeling of conclude, like a concluding feeling, and that they've sort of taken something away from just being in that environment without like enabling them to sort of like repeat the same mistake or anything. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I feel like there's so much you could do with that, like some sort of like state change with the monument itself, like it, yeah, becoming something else or crumbling or I don't know, or like walking away from it, or seeing it differently, or like, yeah, any
Mm.
number of things. Yeah, like, yeah, yeah, I think that's, yeah, very like interesting. And it's like yeah, this statue is like almost its own character. uh because I feel like I would play the whole game and be like, okay, like what's gonna happen with this statue? Like, like is it gonna fall on me? Like is it gonna like, yeah, like what, yeah. So like just providing some uh, answer there, even if it's like not a full answer, but like or yeah, like a way of uh, reconciling with existence even, or yeah.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah,
It's hard to like sort of weave something that's uh but yeah, it would be interesting to like be, and then because that game like Karen that I never played is popular right now, it's like a punishing like climbing game. It'd be interesting to just have like a little thing where you can climb the statue, but it could be like enormous, where you like an entire like level, like you could plant stuff like in just the hand of the statue. That could be like a sub
mm,
chapter where you're just like doing a little planting exercise to give yourself what you need to like climb to the shoulder and then like climb higher. And but then yeah, trying to figure out something, some kind of thing where like maybe you sort of learn about the character that you are as you climb the statue, and by the time you sort of like get to the top, you have like an awareness of like, I could figure out some kind of meaning for the statue or some message that's like up there.
mm, yeah, yeah, that's a cool idea. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
big
it's
big structure in the middle of a desert. It's like there's a lot of symbolism you can play with there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting challenge. Like, it just feels it's exciting because it feels like if you just lock in like some minimal story and some small number of art assets that are easily makeable, then all of a sudden like you have something worthwhile and that can be built like quickly. But it just feels like the challenge is really just being very careful and smart about the design. Like I've never gotten that right, or maybe it's not even possible. Like
Yeah,
maybe
like the
games, maybe there always does need something a bit more complicated than can be just sort of like done easily. Yeah.
yeah, that whole the iterative like finding the fun part. Yeah. That's like yeah. Yeah, I haven't done that either really. Um or in a way that's felt uh like it's moved past like an experiment, I guess. um
Yeah.
yeah.
It is interesting. Yeah, because it's sort of for me it's like if I could just whittle this down to like something that could be done in a weekend, because it's sort of like I'll sort of like toss out the art style, whatever I need to do, like make the character like a couple of pixels, make everything just like a just like a flat vector sort of style texture. And if I just made like one mechanic, like maybe the ability, like you can walk around with the arrow keys, but you can also like if you click like a block of stone or a plant, it sort of like picks it up like you're using Ultra Hand. Then you can like move it around
Mm.
and drop it. And then it would just be like, could I design every part of the game and the puzzles with just that one mechanic so that there's like 3 to 4 fresh puzzles that take maybe like a couple minutes each. And then it's just like a small experience where people get the idea. Like you're at the base of this statue. Like it shows you one shot of the statue from a distance, one shot of the shadow. You start the game, you do like 4 different zones where you're at the top of the statue, and it sort of concludes. And then, but the beauty would be like if I could just kind of get that done in like a weekend, so that I could just like the minimum amount so I can say that it's done. It sort of be like it's a robust game that has a menu that people are not confused by like the art style, and they can kind of just tell like whatever the game is trying to tell them. Like you're in a desert in the shadow, you're halfway up the statue, you're on top, the game is over. Like those main beats, if they're like just clearly communicated, uh, then I feel like that would be like a nicely done thing where there's like no extra, there's nothing like extra. It's just like a very efficient use of time to create something that delivers someone else like 6 minute, like a message in 6 minutes. And then they can just send it, if they play it again in like 5 years, or send it to somebody, or just, yeah.
Hmm.
But that would,
Yeah, I think that
yeah.
sounds very doable.
Yeah, because it's almost like it could be like an entirely text based game where like you're just reading text and maybe making a few choices, but then instead of just text, have like a couple images, and then instead of like, like have a couple of like somewhat real time puzzles where you move blocks around in some way, and just like the like minimal mechanics, uh, and then yeah, that's why I sort of feel like making a video, almost like a video prototype of the game, would kind of be like a good way to just validate like, is it a 6 minute video? Then it's going to be a 6 minute game, and all of the same beats are there. uh so I don't know. Yeah, that there, I feel like
Yeah.
that's sort of what I want to zero in on, is almost like just, yeah, like I would be so happy if I could sit down on like a Friday afternoon, jot out like something that I can just on the spot tell, like this is a coherent like story that won't have like I won't get halfway through and realize something can't be done, or like I'll pick a mechanic that's too hard or too easy to make or not interesting.
Hmm.
And then like by the end, like just a couple hours on Saturday, Sunday, and then by Monday, I have uh, like just something that I did. I feel like that would be like getting into that muscle memory. Like I was thinking again about games as like a workout where it's like if I just like obviously, like the first time I go lift weights because I haven't done that in a while, my arms are gonna hurt. And the first time I like sit down and code in Godot for like an hour, my brain's gonna hurt or whatever. But then over a couple weekends, like how long would it take? Like a couple months of doing that to get up to like marathon ability, and then just one weekend sit down, do all the things that I've practiced that I have the muscle memory for, and once I'm like sort of in like video game shape almost, then I can easily like churn out these like sort of workouts or whatever, but they'll look more like good, well-rounded workouts rather than uh, like being too tired or like muscles getting tight or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that way of thinking about it. Um, yeah, I hadn't thought about game development in that framework before uh, you talked about it, but yeah, I feel like that resonates pretty strongly, and it's like something I need to like remind myself of. I feel like I can be like, oh, I'm out of practice, I'm like intimidated or like not progressing as fast as I want, but it's like, yeah, well, if you like haven't gone for a run for a while, like you're gonna, that's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like so expected. Um, and yeah, you do the run and then you go, the next day or next couple days, and that's just how it goes. Um, yeah, I felt this. I was doing uh, like some like pre-processing of data for this like one of the three like things I've been sort of dabbling with involves like just a small amount of like data manipulation um, of like different like calendars around the world. Um, and I was I was like, okay, like bring up a Python environment, like put this into a data frame, like do the thing. And I was like, oh man, like this used to just be like my life, like, 8 hours a day, or like every 6 days a week for like 5 years. And it was just like so ingrained. Um, like and then I found myself I was like I knew I like zipped like a couple examples from like old projects just for memory, and I was like, oh, I need to like look at this to just like re-remember how this all of this works. Um but it's kind of fun to, yeah, sort of reactivate like feels like long lost knowledge. So,
Yeah, I had a similar thing. I've been like working with Docker files, trying to set up this. There's this like Discord clone that's open source called basically Element, and that's like basically like a Discord UI. You can have accounts and voice rooms and like make video calls and chat rooms, and then
mm,
it runs on this protocol called like the Matrix protocol, and then so the matrix is just like a protocol specification as far as I know, and then the implementation of like the matrix protocol server is called like Synapse, and so then there's like a Synapse, like you can run this Docker container, a Synapse Docker container on a server, and that will be like the matrix server, and then you run like the Element web Docker container that's like the Discord front end, and they like talk to each other to allow,
mm,
and you can sort of like enable like federation. And if you enable federation through like matrix.org, you'll be able to find every other instance of like Element web, matrix sort of combination. You can find all these other servers and other accounts on other servers, and you can like join rooms on other servers, and
mm,
yeah, it's all federated. And then, but there's this thing where like by default, like once you sort of like start it up and you make your first admin account, and you create like rooms and other users and you talk to people on your server, I've realized that you can't video chat because video chatting requires like a turn server essentially, where both clients like visit this like server to exchange like port information in order to establish a video call. And that used to be provided by like the matrix.org whatever foundation used to provide like a server that sort of by default would be used, but now they don't. And so you have to find your own essentially like turn server, which is like a pretty lightweight server to run. But there's also like Docker turn server containers. But then like I decided to pay like $8 a month to like rent like a virtual server. And then now I'm trying to like install like a turn server and Element Web and Matrix like Synapse and get them all to talk to each other following different tutorials to get to a point where like I have that running. And I used to do like more stuff a little bit with Docker and like Docker Compose and exporting ports and everything. And so I remember like some of the concepts, but yeah, it's like going back to this world where it's like, oh yeah, like you run your Docker containers and you can attach or detach or go inside them, or say Docker like PS and it shows you all the containers that are running. And then like different containers, it's like when you start them up, you mount volumes and they can accept like config files, and then there's just like kind of a standard and a way of working with them, but they're not like super, like you have to sort of remember like, oh yeah, all the gotchas and stuff. And then
Totally.
yeah, they always sort of fail at like the final step, and then you wonder like, is this just never going to work, or like it's so hard to
Yeah.
debug these kind of things.
Yeah, so hard to debug. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I remember like starting my old job. It was just like I spent like 2 to 3 months like just like learning Docker and Kubernetes and Helm and like all these, I don't know, all this like tooling that just like for me it was like none of it was particularly intuitive. It was just like, okay, like you just like I just have to sort of learn all these things. Like it's not like I don't know. Like there's some coding things that I come across where I'm like, oh, this like yeah, there's an intuitive feel to it. Where it's like even if I'm like, oh, I'll have to like learn the syntax or whatever. Like it just kind of makes sense for it. But for yeah, all this like containerization, cloud stuff is just like, oh, okay. You just kind of gotta learn it from scratch. I don't know.
Yeah, I always found like there's two things that I find kind of interesting. One is like obviously like if you're running a program and you're in a typed language, it's a pretty solid experience. Like you can print to the console, you can run the program, your program can like do stuff. It's all, and ideally if it's all in one solid block, like you can, do asynchronous stuff, you can call functions, everything's like inspectable and typable, and like you can read it statically. But then as soon as you like one thing is like a file system, like as soon as you start working with a file system, you're like reading and writing stuff to the OS, like bringing in and out like plain text files, which you could like parse into objects and type them. But there's this weird layer where like an alternative to that, instead of like reading and writing text and parsing it to files, let's say every file in a file system could just be like a rich like object in memory. Yeah, so that like if you declare like a struct in your program, you could just like save that struct and it would just be like in the file system, and then when you bring it back it would just still be like a rich data type instead of just a plain text that you have to like parse.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that would be like one thing. Like that would be like, it would be nice if every like files were like that, because then like, for example, how like Nginx is like this plain text file where you write out all the roots and then you like restart the thing. What if Nginx, you could just in like a program, you could just declare like an Nginx like class or whatever, and then populate it and call methods on it, and like that's how you would interact with it. You would print it out, it would show you like the roots, instead of like, it's just kind of like clunky and hard to inspect and unclear what state things are in. So then I just wonder, like, what if an entire machine was just like a machine, and all the file system and its state was an object in a program, and like on my desktop, I could run whatever, like a Python program or a Node program, and I would just like create a new server, and that would spin up a machine. And by saying like, here's the, like, I would call methods on like server, the object, and call like root objects and call .get and pass it like JSON objects. And uh, if that was, and then my program could just kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, my program could like receive events or something from elsewhere. It just feels like that would follow the logic that we've set up in programming. But for some reason, there's so many like, just everything is like these weird like flat file different schemas, like untyped plain string config values. uh, it's a very like poor ecosystem that feels like very fault, like if for all in all the ways that you'd expect, like an untyped plain text program with no correct syntax or linters or anything, or even ability to tell what state it's in. It fails in all the obvious ways that that would fail. And then it's like, what are the solutions? Everything we know as programmers about programming, like type things, have them be like inspectable, lintable, like uh, parsable. But then, yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Because yeah, I feel like it's like I remember having or like there was one design decision I remember where it was like, okay, like whether or not to use Parquet files, which are like uh, it's sort of yeah what you're describing, like just like a structured um, uh, data set, like it's like a table, but like the columns are typed, and it has some like nice properties where like the way it's stored, it's like easy to only grab specific columns and stuff. But it's like, okay, do we store things like that, or do we just store them in like a CSV file? And uh, it's like a tough call. 'Cause I don't know. Like
Yeah.
sometimes, like it, like it's like ideally, I would just like everything to be in Parquet, where it's like it's this very standardized format that like all sorts of programs know how to work with and programming languages know how to work with, that's typed for storing data, and it's like has these nice properties and whatever. But it's like at the same time like it's serialized, so it's not easily
Oh,
inspectable,
yeah.
and just like all the tooling for like inspecting it is just like not great, like or like simple to use, like even in yeah uh and it just like makes life harder, like I don't know, maybe uh, that's something that's has changed and will continue to change, but um yeah, I kind of agree, like I feel like maybe it's just like a legacy thing, like how much stuff still relies on like CSVs and plain text data sources for when that's just like so clearly error prone.
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, sometimes it's weird. Like, I'll, like, for example, there when you're doing like HTTPS for a server, you can use like certbot. So you can like run certbot on your server, and it will generate like certificates that allow you to do HTTPS on your server. Uh, and so that's one way, is like running certbot. And then there's other like libraries that wrap around certbot. So like you just sort of tell it your routes or whatever and to do HTTPS, and then it uses certbot secretly. And there's this one,
mm,
but it's funny because like I sort of like get into the mindset of like, okay, I'm gonna run my own server, so that means I need like certbot. But then I learned about this thing called like Caddy, which Caddy just lets you do like a JSON style object in a file that just says like what all your routes are, and that's it. And then somehow that's all you do, and then HTTPS just like works, like without even realizing it. Somehow Caddy is like invisibly doing HTTPS and storing that somewhere. but I didn't even have to
Mm.
think about it at all. And so it feels like it feels kind of bad because it's like, but that's a whole piece of the puzzle that I feel I should be like working with, but Caddy makes it like invisible, which is what I do want. Like I just feel like I have a server, I have roots. That's all I. It's like, why can't I just have that? Why do I have to? Because when I was using like Nginx, there's literally like 10 lines of code that are all about some kind of like security sampling rate and generating keys, and like they're all just like these garbage lines that set like default values for like this weird, like I guess it's called like TLS, like handshake, but they don't mean anything. And sometimes they just like throw an error and then you just delete the line and nothing, it doesn't even matter anyway what the line was. And so it feels just completely like odd and messy. And so if all that stuff's like hidden, it's kind of better. But then I just worry that at some point, if I ever get like like this root needs its own like security, like how do I even, if that layer's invisible, then it's like, how do I even get started with that? Because there's no place for me to like hook into my
Right.
whatever I have. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like maybe this is like a sort of natural thing that probably applies maybe even like outside of coding, but like I feel like once like it's like for me like working with like some level of abstraction, it then becomes like I feel like wary of like moving up a level of abstraction
Yeah.
if I like know what I'm doing with the lower level
Yeah.
because I'm like, oh, like what am I losing? Um, and I feel like maybe that's the reason why like older programmers that have been doing it for like so long, I would say probably have more of a tendency to like work with like lower level, um, yeah, to tend away from abstractions, like want to know like every, more about closer to the, the metal or whatever, what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I feel like that's such like an interesting, like I bet that's true in like other professions and like ways of doing thing. Like once you get used to, and I think there's like totally value in that too. Maybe it's just like a human nature thing. Um, it's like I don't know, like sewing or something. Like if you get really like good with hand so I mean I'm sort of making this up because I don't really know too
Yeah.
much about sewing, but it's like you get really good at like hand sewing and then it's like, oh, like some parts get automated by a a sewing machine. It's like, well, but maybe I'm losing some particular yeah, qualities to hand sewing by doing this, or yeah, it's just like not as natural. Yeah. Whereas for like,
Mhm.
I don't know, my nieces and nephews, like that are just like unbelievably natural with technology, like know how to, like my 4-year-old niece just like knows how to do AirPlay to all the TVs or whatever to set up games where I'm like, this they take me like longer to set this up. Uh, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like if you tried to manually set up AirPlay with a programming language, like it would just never work because it's some kind of like weird proprietary thing with like like these TVs that are like vendor TVs or whatever. But then yeah,
Uh-huh.
if you know like the AirPlay button, uh, it just like, but then clicking that AirPlay button, it's like, but this isn't gonna work. It's like if you're in a hotel or something, it's like, well, surely like this isn't gonna work, or like even if it does, I don't trust that it, like I'm not gonna sit down and relax and believe that like it's gonna continue to work or whatever. And then I start wondering like,
Uh-huh.
it's like, wait, how is it working? Like, uh, it's like I didn't, you start like wondering like,
Yeah.
so there's all these
Maybe
like
it's spying on me
questions.
or something.
Yeah, there's all these like strange uh like thoughts that one has, that it's almost like more comfortable to just like not enter that realm of, because then yeah, it's sort of like okay, well it works, like even if it works flawlessly now, it's like, well, I'm not going to go home and it's not going to work, or like I can't rely on this. Like it's never going to work again on a new TV. And it's like how would it know another TV? Like what's the product? Like, it's sort of I need to know something about it so that I can reason about whether it's going to work or not, or whether I can expect it to work. Because like if I start relying on it, if that's like the way I watch TV, then surely it's just going to stop working one day. And then what do I do? Like I need to know, uh, I just need to feel like I control this thing. I need to sort of know something about it. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I like, yeah, I feel like I respect people who, it's like that book that I only read the very beginning of at some point and then got a little bored with, but it's called like Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. You
yeah.
heard of this book?
I heard of that. I just can't get past the idea of like the motor, like if it was like bicycle
Yeah,
maintenance, right? All it has to
right,
be is
right.
bicycle
Yeah.
maintenance. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah,
because
I
it's
think
sort of like
yeah,
no, yeah. I wonder what your opinion of it is, because I just in my mind it's like, okay, so you like reach this like ultimate Zen state, and then you get on a motorcycle and drive on the highway. I think there's some steps missing there.
yeah.
It's like you're content just like listening to a repeating engine sound and like the beauty of that. And then you drive at 100 miles an hour on a highway, flying past like crap, 7-Elevens, and it's like this is the
Yeah.
same dude. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think yeah, the description and I mean, yeah, this is just the very probably the very first like chapter of the book from that I'm remembering from like 8 years ago, but is like it makes it out to be like far more idyllic where it's like they're sort of driving through the countryside or whatever, just like stopping to do bird watching and stuff. Um, but yeah, I similar yeah, I and like I kind of like I get the like cyberpunk appeal of motorcycles, but yeah, for me, I'm like I yeah this would never be me. Um, but anyways, yeah, I don't know. Like I have like a lot of respect for people that like have that drive to like I have a friend who's like oh I just like yeah know yeah with their bicycle it's like they know every little thing like they can repair it themselves and um like I think that's like really cool. There's just like certain things where I'm just like maybe it's because I grew up with it or whatever. I'm just like totally content to treat it as a black box in my life, and then like other things not. And yeah, I don't know what that is. Like if it's like oh I would gain something from trying to more deeply understand um, the world I interact with, or if it's just like I don't know, we live in such a complex world, we can only sort of pick and choose.
a big thing is like sort of take like in my up until recently, like just taking politics for granted, like assuming that those that are in office are like handling it and not and just treating that like a black box. And then like I feel like
Uh-huh.
so many people like involuntarily, begrudgingly learn every little detail about politics, whether they like it or not, by just having that system like suddenly like break down. And then you sort of realize like, well, unfortunately we can't just like treat this as a black box, because it just like we need to get in there and fix it somehow. And but also like the more you learn about it, the more it's like, was it really this like this? Can't even believe it's that messy inside the box, almost beyond like repair.
Yeah.
uh yeah, and that's like an interesting, it's sort
Yeah,
of like
that
I
is a
wish,
big one.
yeah, it's sort of like just wishing that there was some like room full of adults somewhere like handling things. But then yeah, being like, is it, it's sort of like I wish we could just take that for granted, that like society exists on some according to some rules, and then we build on top of that instead of like
Uh-huh.
it's like question every like even just even down to like what is true and false is, can we even pin that down, like so many things are open to like what's the majority opinion, and uh what do we like want to be true so we can like get by or something like that. And
Yeah.
that's it's even yeah it's like I wish we could treat like thing like like true and false facts as a black box, but you have to like get right in there and like play by play, like case by case, uh like decide these things that should just be like logic but they
Right.
like get so messed up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I feel like now more than ever it's like, well, yeah, it makes sense like that there's philosophy departments that are like, you know, where people writing these like long papers or, trying to figure out ontology and epistemology, and just like the base sort of um, constructs of our reality. It's like, yeah,
Mm.
it's actually like quite difficult to for um, yeah, especially across like like different cultural contexts, like to pin down like what um, yeah, what we can like agree on or share. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting. I just started reading this guy Franz Fanon. It's like a decolonial um, thinker, writer, and yeah, he has like a couple like famous books, but it's just like, man, like there's like some stuff uh, that he like writes like so poetically about like for him it's like specifically it's like 1950s, he's a black man from Martinique, which is like a French colony, and he goes to France, and he sort of is confronted with racism in a way that he hasn't been before. Um, and like, yeah, the way that he writes about it is like so um, like poetic and like gets to like the basis of uh, like being and selfhood and stuff. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's yeah, quite yeah, it sort of makes me question like the shared reality that I that I live in. Where yeah, it's like, oh, like yeah, people's experiences can be just like so vastly different.
It's funny too to see like it's like it's like what if we could make a blog post that ends racism, and it's like it turns out like the most like poetic talented guy has already like was like literally in the experience, has like done the perfect job of that anyone could imagine, and it's like and that didn't do it, huh? We like no, that didn't convince
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
All right, like
He
like
talks
that
he like talks
doesn't
about
look
it
good
directly.
for
He's like,
yeah.
yeah, this isn't going to be fixed by debate. Like that's like yeah, that's not how this works. And yeah, it's like, the 1950s in France and yeah. Yeah, it's very striking. Yeah. It's like gosh, it's like, from 70 plus years ago. It's like
That
entirely too relevant.
yeah, the fact that occurred, like someone did the level of poetry that you're sort of describing, it reminds me, like I, because it's sort of like that the passion for what they did, I assume, came out of the fact that they were in that situation and maybe also like didn't have so many people around them that were like allies or that they could relate to, and so I'm sort of guessing that they dump out like this very detailed, like it's almost like to convince themselves that they're not the crazy one. Like they sort of just do this very like impassioned, beautiful thing that they can sort of hold in front of them, and that helps them through like the alienation of being like the odd one out for seemingly no reason. But they sort of go like way beyond and create this thing that's like undeniably like they are a valuable person because of that work they did almost, and so it like proves its own point that it's like well surely this is value, so like we wouldn't throw this out, so then therefore I'm valuable and therefore like these other people are not like seeing the full picture or something. But it reminds me of the recent MinMax. They had those three devs on, and one of them was a Despelote dev, and he said that like,
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
haven't watched that yet.
yeah, essentially the Despelote dev said like he's from Ecuador, but he moved to essentially like Brooklyn, and part of the game is like the yearning for wanting to go back to Ecuador, or like the yearning for like childhood, like the play, the craving of playing soccer in childhood. But he said like he couldn't if he couldn't make a game like this probably staying in Ecuador. He has to leave Ecuador to like feel the yearning to go back to there to sort of get the
Mm.
energy to put that yearning like into the game to see it through like the rose colored like not his words but like rose colored glasses or whatever. Uh, that's something I sort of felt like moving back to Washington. Like definitely, uh, like not living in Washington, it's sort of like the beauty of all the trails. Like living here, it's sort of like the reality of like the traffic mixed with the trails. Uh, it's but then I sort of see that it's sort of like it's very easy to like imagine another place in like perfect terms or like yearn for it, but then it's hard to feel excited about a place when you're just faced with all the reality of it, like being there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I I think about that. Yeah, like being yeah, having like a yearning for a place. Like like I feel like I or yeah, some I forget where in what context I heard this, but the idea of like having it um sort of like nurturing this yearning for a place that may not even exist, or um and like you sort of know that, or like a home that isn't necessarily in this world, but like is like a world you want to live in, or um yeah, I feel that a lot. Like uh yeah, particularly like yeah, wanting to live in yeah, a world like different than this one, but sort of like okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
like that's not how this works. I sort of have to yeah, but yeah, trying to like view that not as like a overtly sad thing, just like kind of bittersweet and um, yeah, like something to be nurtured, I guess.
Yeah, I almost feel somehow that's I'll head out in like a minute, but it's connected to like enlightenment. It's like if you get full knowledge, you don't have any like it's like wanting something is very important or something like that. Uh, like I feel like the yearning is the state. Like it's sort of like if you get the thing you're yearning for, you don't have any purpose or motivation or something like that. So it's just sort of like it's like the beauty of remaining in the state of like wanting something and not being able to have that thing is just bringing out some excitement or some like the interesting ways that we deal with that. But then just like having a thing is not exciting as much somehow.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Thanks for talking.
Yeah.
So I'm
I'll
headed
see
to
you.
a little art club and then
Oh yeah.
going to see this movie Surat. So I'm looking forward to it.
Mm. Yeah, I might try to see the Nirvana movie.
Oh yeah, I want to see that too. Heard it's very
Mm.
funny.
Yeah, well, I'll see you later.
See ya.
Bye.